Check this out. This is not granite. In this video, we use epoxy to mimic the high-end looks of natural stone. Learn right now to renew and refinish old surfaces. Our epoxy resists heat, stains, and impact. It's tough. This video is the step-by-step instructions to learn to create the surfaces you want in your own space. Do-it-yourselfers, contractors, and designers all love how simple it is to create with Stone Coat Countertops. Discover right now how to turn cheap laminate into a high-end looking surface on a budget. You don't need special tools. The process is simple, it's fun, and the looks are second to none. Learn to create realistic reactions with our additives. We show you how to layer in between coats and how to finish like a pro. Using simple tools and techniques, you'll see why Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy was designed for the do-it-yourselfer. From matte finish to high shine, you can mimic natural stone including granite, marble, concrete, soapstone, and more. Watch this before you remodel anything. Visit us anytime at stonecoatcountertops.com. Stay tuned and enjoy the video.
You got this! Remember, when you subscribe to our channel, click on the red subscribe button and be sure to ring the bell so you get notified every time we have a new video. Thanks again.
Hey, we have a laminate countertop here and we're gonna renew it with Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. First, we're gonna take off this backsplash and build a new backsplash so we can get the same looks as we have on the horizontal flat surface as well as the backsplash. We're gonna show you how we're gonna do that. We'll take out the sink. We'll get this countertop prepped by first cleaning with TSP and then sanding with 60 grit and then applying our bonding primer so that we get a good, nice bond between layers. Let's get started. I like to check to make sure that water is completely out. So I'll turn it on to the hot and cold side. Just make sure that my valves actually shut the water off. Let's go set the sink aside and we'll get ready for our next step. That's nasty. Go get some plastic and cover these up. It's a good idea to get all prepped up before you get dust in the air. When you cut the backsplash off, it creates some sawdust, and by pre-sticking all of our tape, we ensure that we have clean, dry surfaces that the sawdust isn't going to inhibit the adhesion of your masking. Pro tip, guys, if you have excess masonite, it holds your masking down really well so it doesn't move underneath your feet during your pour. How do you cut off a backsplash? Let me give you three options: good, better, and best. You can start with a Sawzall. It's gonna be a kind of a rough cut. It's not gonna do a really great job at getting it smooth, but it is an option to get your backsplash cut off. You can also use a multi-tool. If you're gonna use a multi-tool, get a couple of bits because it does burn through your bits. Formica is a rough surface and it will wear out those hardwood cutting bits. And the best option is a jam saw. I love using jam saws to cut off backsplash. If you're doing this for a living and you go over the top of existing countertops, this is a must-have. The link will be in the description below, but this will make short work of getting rid of that backsplash. Let's do it right now. Jam saw, baby. Woo! All right, let's finish our plunge cut back in the corner with our multi-tool. That's how you remove backsplash. That's flush. This is typical with most laminate jobs. We're gonna have a space back here between the wall and the laminate countertop. We're gonna get backer rod, we're gonna fill that space in, and then we'll Bondo that transition so it's nice and smooth. We'll fill that in and we'll be ready for our next step.
Stop taking notes. We've done the hard work for you. We have a PDF that's going to teach you step by step, including pictures of how to do this project from start to finish. Light colored granite is popular. We have a recipe kit on our website. Just click the link and discover the kit. We have the same additives that we've used in this very video. You can get light colored granite over your old laminate. Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy is durable. It's heat resistant, impact resistant, scratch resistant, UV resistant. Our products can withstand the abuse of your kitchen, your floors, your countertop projects, your art, your wood tables, and more. You can visit us anytime at stonecoatcountertops.com. We have a product for that. You got this. Backer rod. This is perfect to wedge between the back wall and the sheetrock. Let's do that right now. I haven't used this brand of Bondo before. It was something new on the shelf. I thought I'd give it a shot. It says it has a higher bond. I'm interested to see if it's any better. Let's check it out. This stuff is really stinky, so if you have an aversion to really nasty smells, wear a mask at this point and ventilate the room. Looks the same as any other Bondo I've used, but maybe it's different. Ooh, it's a little creamier. Only mix up what you can use in the lifespan of the Bondo, and if you don't have any experience with Bondo, start small and then work your way up to a bigger batch. I really like that the color of this hardener is contrasting the Bondo. That really helps you mix properly. Okay, we're gonna let that dry. We're almost ready. We're going to use our 5-inch random orbital sander with 60 grit sandpaper to smooth out the Bondo and rough up and create a mechanical bond on this laminate countertop. I'm going to mix our TSP with some water and create a solution to really degrease these countertops. We'll sand one more time after that, then we're going to apply our bonding primer. You can see right here this seam. We bondoed that seam so that there was no low or high point, and none of the seam is going to transfer through the epoxy because we applied a thin layer of Bondo over where that laminate joined up. The only thing that you're trying to accomplish with the Bondo is hiding the gap between the countertop and the wall. It doesn't need to be a perfect smooth Bondo job. What you're going to do is sand any high point out, and then you're going to paint and primer and one over that, and the epoxy will hide any imperfections. It'll be smooth as glass. I'm going to wipe the dust and remove any debris off the counter, and then we'll use our bonding primer. I'll finish masking off where this new edge meets the wall so I can leave the sheetrock intact. That way when I demold it and demask it, it'll look like it grew into that wall. Now that we know we're all done creating dust, we're going to clean our work environment. That way we have a nice clean environment to pour our epoxy and paint our countertops. Pro tip, work smarter, not harder. When you're cleaning your job site, start from the top, scrape it to the floor, clean the whole floor at one time. That way you're not cleaning the floor and then making a new mess. Start from the top and work your way down. Remember, when applying bonding primer, thin to win. You only need a thin coat to create that mechanical and chemical bond. Bonding primer goes a long way. One of our jars will do 30 square feet. I told you a little goes a long way, right? Okay, let's let the bonding primer dry. Then we're going to apply 2 coats of paint and primer in one. In this case, on this job, we're going to do a lighter color countertop, so we'll start with a lighter base. We're going to do natural gray.
2 coats, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Our bonding primer is all set up and dry. We're gonna sand it with 220 grit. We'll wipe the dust and do our first coat of paint and primer in 1. While this first coat of paint and primer in 1 dries, we're going to work on our new backsplash. We cut the old backsplash off so that we can match the new backsplash perfectly. And the way to get this matched is by doing the color effects the same as the countertop, flat and horizontal. So we're going to cut our MDF backsplash just higher than the old backsplash so we hide that paint line, and then we're going to do our same paint and primer in 1 and the same epoxy process over the new backsplash. We'll set it on top and silicone that joint so it looks just like a natural stone install. The old backsplash was 3.5 inches tall. We're going to make this about 1 inch taller. We have plenty of room between the plug outlets and the new height backsplash. This will look like a nice height, give it some good depth, and give it some good character. Let's get started cutting the new backsplash. We're going to figure out the linear footage of our backsplash needs. I know that I'm cutting this out of a 4x8 sheet of MDF, so this will tell me how many pieces I need to make. We need to cut 3 full 8-foot pieces, and we'll be able to fabricate out of those. We get asked about our saw guide all the time. How'd you make it? What do I do? How do I get one? We actually offer these on our website. At stonecoatcountertops.com, we have a tools section with tools designed for the do-it-yourselfer to get things done. We're going to use a 1/8 inch router bit to put a small cove on this backsplash. I like to do it on the top edge and the back edge so the epoxy will flow and not create a buildup strip on that backsplash top. You can use a small hand trim router or you can use a simple router table. Either are just fine. I'm going to use my router table. This is also a good time to think about samples. If you want small samples of the particular color that you're creating, oversize your backsplash and use the cutoff as a sample that can ride with you in your truck, and you can show people anytime what you can do with epoxy. That's a pro tip. I'm going to need a seam in my backsplash. So what I'm going to do is hide that seam behind the faucet in the center of my sink. So I'll find my center point and I'll put my seam right there. I know this small piece is going to fit my small counter, but it's exposed on both sides of that backsplash, so make sure and router this side that I just cut so it looks like a factory finished piece. We're going to sand the top of these backsplashes up to 220 grit to remove any saw marks, and then we'll do 2 coats of paint and primer in 1 and follow that same process we did on the counters, although we don't need to use bonding primer. This isn't a smooth, non-porous surface, so no bonding primer is necessary. It's always good to leave a little meat on the bone as far as your height, because I could run these through my table saw when I'm all done and give me a good factory finish on the bottom side of my backsplash, knowing that if I get drips or buildup on the bottom, I'm going to cut it off anyways. One thing that I like to do is get most of the paint off my roller and then immediately roll those porous edges. The edges are more porous than the flat surface of the MDF, so be sure to get a good coat on that and then finish with the surface. Let's let those backsplashes dry and we'll do a second coat. Our first coat is nice and dry. We're going to use our sander, sand with 220 grit, wipe the dust, and apply our second coat. Let's get going. Again, all we're doing is removing those high points. It doesn't need to be perfect. We're just making it nice and uniform as far as color. Okay, second coat. We're gonna let this second coat fully dry and we'll be ready for the epoxy. These edges on the MDF are super porous. That's why we need 2 coats and not 1. You could almost see through the paint because it's just that first coat. The second coat will hide it really well. Pro tip, be sure to sand in between coats, especially on those edges. That's where you'll get smooth edges and set yourself up for success later in the pour. If you leave them rough, you're gonna feel that transfer through.
Wait, that's not Mike.
All right, let's let that dry. We're gonna create a temporary table. The reason we're gonna do this is it gives us a place to mix. It also gives us a place to pour the backsplash in the same room. So I get to do everything at the same time, get the same results, and have a beautiful matching set of backsplash and countertops. Nice and rigid, that's what you're looking for. The 2x4s take any belly out of this OSB. I like to face the top edge to me so that when I'm doing my backsplash, I get to see that top edge and make sure I'm coating it appropriately. Don't ever underestimate the value of a good paint pyramid. Let's go over our tools of choice and the sundries and supplies you're going to need to do your countertop project. First, let's start with the spray paint colors we're going to use. We're going to use our antique brass hammered metallic. This is a Rust-Oleum color. We're also going to use Rust-Oleum gloss black. In our base tint, we're going to use our white base tint. We're going to use our Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy designed for art. This has more UV protection, and whenever we're doing a light colored or white countertop, we want the ultimate UV protection so we retain that beauty long lasting. We're going to use our diamond dust. We have some of our metallics mixed with 91% isopropyl alcohol. We do this at a ratio of a half a bag to 8 ounces of alcohol. Shake it really well and you get nice contrasting effects as you spray these into your countertop as you're building it. We're going to use deep silver, we're going to use pearl, and we're going to use gold. Those are our 3 colors we're going to spray and mist and cause fun reactions. Some of the tools that you need on hand is you need a drill with a mixing paddle attachment. Mix your materials for 2 minutes and you're ready to pour. We're going to use a torch head, and it's important when you choose your torch head to have holes on the base. This allows you to turn it upside down without that torch extinguishing itself. Make sure you have gloves to protect your hands. You don't want to get sticky. Paint sticks are good to have on hand, as well as spoons to scoop your additives so you don't pour too much into your mixed epoxy. Graduated mixing containers are a must. You want to measure a 1-to-1 ratio when using our art coat. We got a chop brush, we got a sanding backer, paper towels to wipe our dust after we sand right before we pour, and we're ready to go. Ooh, I almost forgot, I'm going to use white spray paint too. Don't forget your white. Pro tip, don't ever mix too much epoxy at a time where it forces you to rush. We're going to mix up 2 quarts at a time. We'll do our color effects, and when we're happy and pleased with those, we'll move on to the next section of our counter by remixing another batch. Chop the seam together and you'll never know you did them at a separate time. That's a way to get a long, huge project done in the same time frame. Mix for 2 minutes. Make sure you slow your drill down, rub the sides and the bottom of the bucket, pull it off of that bucket, and go full speed again so you get a nice thorough mix. How much base color do you use per quart? 2 ounces is the answer. This is an 8-ounce container. You want to use about 2 ounces per quart. So this is 2 quarts. We'll use about half the container to tint this nice and white. We're going to use our 1/8 by 1/8 square notch trowel to spread the material. It'll gauge it at the right thickness. It'll also allow it to level out and give you the perfect amount of material on your finished counter surface. Let's get started. Tip, use a paper towel, wipe your gloves periodically throughout the pour so you don't transfer epoxy to all your tools and create a stickier mess than necessary. Make sure you pull any loose bristles out of your brush. If you happen to lose a bristle in your countertop, do a final inspection, have a toothbrush in hand, and you can pick those right out like magic. As you prime your brush before you start chopping, this ensures that you don't create a dry spot by pulling up excess epoxy where you begin your chopping process. Prime it first and then chop. What chopping also does is break any surface tension. You'll notice I'm going right up to the back wall and I'm chopping the entire back surface. This puts epoxy everywhere in that back edge and it promotes everything from leveling into those low points. So be sure to chop the whole surface and don't be afraid to hit the back wall a little bit. That's all going to get covered with your new backsplash. As we chop the surface, we're pushing material over the front edge really unevenly. So what we're going to do now is long horizontal strokes along this front edge to coat it and to make sure it's nice and smooth. This is how we get better edges. Let's do it. We're going to treat our backsplashes the same as our countertop. Chop them and brush those edges. Here we go. You see this surface tension right here? This is where the epoxy is not wanting to level because there's tension. So as we break that with the brush, it's going to break that up and allow the epoxy to flow on the entire backsplash. What I'm doing now is my initial popping of bubbles. A propane torch does an excellent job. We're just sweeping the surface quickly. Don't worry about it being perfect. In this coat, we're going to do our additives and our color effects, so we won't have a perfectly flat finish. Tomorrow, we're going to do a clear coat with just our countertop epoxy without additives, and this will make everything nice and flat. So all we're doing is our initial torching so we can add our color effects. It's easy, it's fast, and effective. That lays out smooth as glass really fast. All right, we're going to start our color additive process. Let's have some fun. The first thing that we're going to do is add a layer of deep silver misted on the surface. I'm going to shake my material up. I'm going to make sure it's spraying out just like I like. All right, here we go. Another long run right here. As you can see, just deep silver over a white base tinted epoxy is a beautiful recipe in and of itself. Let's keep going and see what we can make this look like as far as natural stone. I love the effects that you get with just those two additives. Deep silver over white is fantastic. Let's add some gold metallic and see the difference that it creates. We're not going to add quite as much gold, we just want some accent colors. Keep in mind, if you get any surface tension caused by the alcohol and metallics, that's normal. Sometimes you'll get a dimple. If you just break the surface tension, it'll level out. I like that gold. I'm going to put a little bit more in the countertop because I really like the effect. Okay, and for my next trick, we're going to use some black spray paint and some pearl metallic. This will create fracturing. Keep in mind, metallics by themselves will meld out quite a bit. They'll start to mute and they'll be less hard as they were when you first applied them. That's okay, that's good for your advantage. What we're going to do now is we're going to use spray paint in conjunction with the metallic, and those hard lines, they'll evolve, but they'll stay put quite a bit more than just metallic by itself. So, pro tip, it's always good to add layers to create depth and realism. Let's add one more layer. Here we go. I don't want to do spray paint over the whole surface. I'm just going to do it sporadically so that it looks like natural stone. Not everything is uniform. Keep that in mind.
Guys, in this video, we're showing you multiple ideas with one color recipe. You can stop anywhere in the process in any color that you'd like and substitute. Mix and match colors and use the same pattern. Use this video to stir up and generate ideas for your own space. Don't hesitate to tri-color and get a sample board just how you'd like. That is the new footprint and template to how you can get your counters to look like any exotic stone.
Pro tip, you have to put enough spray paint to coagulate and really stick to the surface. So be a little bit liberal with it. Hit it hard and you'll get really fantastic, striking results. That is really, really cool. I like that. What I'm gonna do now is just blend out a few spots using this antique brass metallic. It'll give it a few different highlights in the surface to give it more realism. Let's do it. I think I'm gonna layer a little bit more deep silver and then step back and add a touch of diamond dust. I like that. I think that's gonna settle in and look really cool, man. So I'm gonna do a faux effect tomorrow. After this sets up, I'm gonna do plastic bag granite. So we're gonna spray some black paint on a plastic bag and give it another layer of effect before we do our clear, and I think that will give this the cherry on top.
Guys, if you're getting valuable content out of this video, don't hesitate to crush that like button and help us get higher in the queue. Enjoy the rest of the video.
Okay, our first coat is all set up and dry. We're gonna use our 220 grit on our random orbital sander. We'll sand it, and then we're gonna apply additional effects. We're gonna use our plastic bag granite technique. We've taught this technique in our other videos, and we're gonna apply a second layer just with some paint. Then we're gonna do our clear over that. It'll give it amazing depth, some hard lines that actually resemble granite, and we'll get our clear coat all done at the same time. So when I crunkle my plastic bag, I don't want just a flat surface like this. I want some crunkles involved. So I'm just gonna use that part of it, and we'll spray that, and we'll see what happens. As the paint starts to dry, because it's drying, it'll be more subtle. Ooh, I'm gonna like that. I really think I'm gonna like that. Okay, here we go, round two. Let's fight. See how you can just kind of follow this down and make it look like a specific part of that stone. Okay, I'm gonna add another color. I'm actually gonna add some white here. Spots like this that don't appear very real, putting another color over them immediately up levels it. See that? The green from the bag is coming off, which actually kind of looks cool.
It does kind of look cool.
Unintended consequence right there. This brass that I had put in it, and we're gonna put that on top of this black. Oh, heck yeah. That really makes it look tight in. That looks cool. Doing that, watch this. You dab it and you slap it. Faux painting right here. Dab it, slap it. The slap and dab. Oh, I'm sorry, the dab and slap. I like slap and dab better. Slap it and dab it.
Hey.
Shake and bite. Slap and dab. I'm going to use a little bit of acetone to tone some of this down and break up some of the color, just to use as a negative space filler, basically removing some of what we put down. Let's try it. Yeah, that's cool. Really kind of flows that together and makes it look more natural. So like if I didn't like this right here, I could just wipe it off. So that's what I like about using acetone, is just blobbing it. It will dry, but I'm actually making this look like this looks a little fake to me right here. So by tapping it, it really makes it look more realistic. And you could use kind of the residual paint that you're picking up just to fade out around it a little bit. Really a fun technique. Super easy to do and very forgiving. Because if I didn't like this area up here, I just wipe it off. The nice thing about this method is you get to take your time and really just step back, look at the piece, know what you want, and then go with it. This looks very real to me. I really like this section. I'm gonna emulate this on the rest of the counter. If it looks a little too fake, just thin it out and then dab it. That's sweet, man. That's pretty cool, man. I think I need to add a little bit of a brown over here just to make this other side match. I mean, look at that. That's sick. Yes, that looks good, man. Dang. Woo! See the different layers and different effects that you can get just by playing with stuff. That is really starting to look like natural stone. I'm gonna put a little bit more brass just to tone some of this black down here. Oh yeah. See what that did? We made it all look real right there. I think I'll just fade this in here a little bit. Let's acetone that and then we'll be on to the backsplash. I like that kind of marbling that leaves when you oversaturate it with acetone a little bit, and then that acetone will immediately dissipate and you're gonna have left over some very neat effects right there. All right, let's just fog a little bit of this antique brass and we'll be good. I'm gonna cover up this edge a little bit. Kind of did that whole section. I like that. Just add a little of that color right here. Bring that in here a little bit. Okay guys, we're gonna mix the same amount of epoxy that we did on our first coat, 3 ounces per square foot. We'll use our 1/8 by 1/8 square notch trowel to spread the material. We'll chop it with a brush and we'll torch it crystal clear. Pro tip, how do I remove my drips? Simply wait 3 to 4 hours depending on temperature in the room. You're gonna come back and scrape those drips off so that you have a nice clean edge, not needing sanding the next day.
If you want to emulate natural stone, you can make marble. You can make your old Formica look like concrete, whether it's a modern look or a classic design. By simply searching Stone Coat Countertops, you're going to learn the tips and tricks on our videos. We teach you step by step how to do wood epoxy hybrid projects, how to make epoxy art, and it's simple. You're going to learn designs that will take your space to the next level. Our long open working time makes our products user-friendly. You can use additives that are simple to use that make complex results. Contractors, designers, and weekend warriors all love using Stone Coat Countertop products because we can turn your old surfaces into exotic stone.
It'll look like natural stone. It's got some good depth here. I love applying it with this trowel. It just makes it so easy to control your epoxy.
Pro tip, buy gloves that actually fit your fingers.
Hey guys, Mitch here. Keep that torch head a couple inches off the surface of the epoxy in an even motion, like you're mowing the grass. We're gonna remove the drips. Timing is everything. So first I'm gonna test the drips. Right now, they're nice and jelly. You can see that they're long, stringy lines. And that's what I'm looking for, because what that means is the epoxy is done flowing. And so I'm gonna pull those drips off, and tomorrow I won't need to sand them off because we've already taken care of it. Here we go. This is how you want the epoxy. It's jelly, it still moves, but it's not self-leveling too much. Bloop. All right. It doesn't hurt to come back and babysit that a little bit, just to be sure that you got those drips all the way gone. The best tool of choice to get a bug out of the countertop is your toothbrush. Thank you, Paul, from Paul's Toolbox. His channel is amazing and he has great DIY tips. Let's see how well a toothbrush works to get this fly out of the countertop. There he is. Not just kidding. Okay, so now I got a void in that counter. Let me show you how to fix it. You can go through and torch that area to warm it back up a little bit and it will flow into that low point. Let's try it right now. Perfect. All right, what we're gonna do is sand the drips off of these backsplash. We'll install them. We'll run a bead of silicone so that no water can get behind that backsplash. We'll reinstall that sink and this thing will be ready to rock and roll. Let's get started. As you can see, you get a little bit of epoxy that comes onto the bottom of that backsplash. What I'm going to do is run it through my table saw to get a perfectly crisp bottom so that it sits nice and tight to the top of my countertop, and when I silicone that joint, it's going to look like it grew into place. Simply set it in your table saw so you get a dimension, remove that backsplash, and then just take off about a blade. Let's go install this. It's a really good practice to find and double check your center point. I overcut my backsplashes knowing I'd come back and finalize exactly how long I want to cut this one to be right behind the faucet, and then I'll get my measurement to my next piece where I'm going to seam these two together. Let's go cut this one 70 inches on the button. Pro tip, it's really hard to see your marks on normal Stone Coat countertop. Check this out. If I use a pencil here, it doesn't show up really good. So it's a really good idea to use a piece of tape and then your mark shows up really well and you don't have confusion when you take it back to your chop saw. We get asked all the time, what's the best saw blade to use when I'm cutting my Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy project to size? Anything made for fine woodworking. You want a fine-tooth woodworking saw blade, and that's going to give you crisp, clean lines without a bunch of chips in the epoxy. That's a pro tip. You want to put enough silicone on the piece so that the dollop will really spread out, but you don't want it so big that it comes up past the top of the splash. This is done with a little bit of experience, but you could always wipe the excess, but it's nice to get the right amount the first time. And there you go. Nice. Look at that seam. Time to do our return piece of our backsplash. I'm just going to throw it up here backwards, and then I'll just get a mark right here because I don't want it to extend past my bullnose. I want it to go right where that bullnose starts. So that's where I'm going to cut it. Now I got my back piece marked, but I really want my blade plunging from the front. So I'm just going to simply mark it with my blade, and then I'll flip over the piece. That transfers my line to the front, and now I'm ready to cut. Look at how clean that fine-tooth blade cuts the splash. Pro tip, when you're masking your backsplash, start at one end of the kitchen, mask from left to right or right to left. And then when you de-prep or demask, start in the same location and everything will come off in one clean sweep. That's a pro tip. You know what one of the coolest byproducts of learning how to mask is? You get really good around Christmas time wrapping all those presents.
let's talk caulking. What are we going to use and where and why? I'm going to use 100% silicone wherever the countertop meets the backsplash because I'm never going to paint there. It's going to be epoxy, touching epoxy, and it's a great sealant. Now, in this case, this kitchen's going to get painted when we're all done with the countertops. Keep in mind, paint doesn't stick to silicone. So that's why we're going to use a paintable caulking where the backsplash meets the wall. So we'll be using a white caulking to match these white walls, and we'll be using a clear silicone where the countertop meets the backsplash. Let's do it. I'm going to get my garbage bucket ready, and I'm going to demask this thing. One foul swoop. I'm going to give you double trouble. 2 pro tips in one. First, when you're masking off the top 90-degree corner of your backsplash, push nice and tight on the top, but don't weld it to the face of your splash because then when you pull your masking, it'll come off much smoother just having really strong adhesion on top. Second pro tip, pull your masking as soon as you're done caulking. Don't let that caulking cure and create a seal that bleeds over to that tape. You won't get as clean of lines. Those are 2 pro tips in one. Be sure that you silicone your joint where you butt your backsplash. You can also pre-dowel or pre-biscuit that splash and install it all in one piece. Also, I left a little tape on the face of my seam so that as that silicone sets up while I'm working on the rest of this project, that seam will stay nice and flush. I'm going to take the masking off of these cabinets so I can reinstall that sink. This thing's almost done. We transformed tired laminate into natural stone. We used our light granite recipe. You can visit us at stonecoatcountertops.com and discover the kit that we put together with all the additives and the same things that we used in this video. See us in the comments section. We have a link just for you. All right, let's get this thing tightened down. Nice. Guys, this is just one color possibility to restore your old worn surfaces. You can renew and replace your old countertops, tabletops, desktops, hearths, floors, artwork, and more. We have color recipes that will fit any design and any style. Also, if you're wanting to learn how to do an undermount sink in place, we have a video for that. If you want to learn how to keep your old existing backsplash on, because that may be just a little above your capability, we also have a video for that too. Visit us at stonecoatcountertops.com. You got this.